just for an example, I'll give it 200, and then I'm going to wind the focal plane down into the negative, bearing in mind that Z depth in negative is further away from the camera and positive is behind the camera. So 0 is right where the camera is, and the lower I go, it starts to wind that blur further out towards the teapot. Now what I want to do is set the focal plane on the, let's say, the cube. So we've got the focal plane positioned on the cube. It's in focus, but everything else is blurry. And now we're just going to wind the focal plane thickness up a little bit, just until we start to get that sphere half the amount of blur, about there. And then we're going to wind the radius back down to something a little more practical, which will go 1.5. And if we just unhide the background, you'll see now, and it's a little bit too blurry down the back there, so let's drop that to 0.75. And obviously it doesn't meet, probably for this example we'll make a solid instead of this background. The background is fairly crisp in focal depth blurring down to, you know, quite the way down the road here, so it's not quite matching. But if we just create a new solid, white's fine. We're just going to drop that down underneath, and we're just going to hide that background layer there. You'll see that the effect that we're getting is quite blurry up here, definitely blurry down where the teapot is, and as it moves more towards the square or the sphere, the cube, it's nice and crisp, and then as it comes closer to camera it gets blurry again. And so what we can do is highlight that and change that to, let's crank it up for the purpose of having a look, and we'll just move. You'll notice here that we can just put it on the teapot right down the back, and it's a gradual blur that as you go further away, that blurring is happening nicely down the back here. So that's a very powerful feature, and used quite a lot in animation of stylized worlds of, say, Disney, any Warner Brothers stuff, any 3D animation. It's a very powerful tool, because to render that out of 3D, to render that depth of field in 3D, it takes a lot of time, and it's almost a factor 10 and up in render time. Whereas you saw how easy I was able to do that in post-production